So again, we are working on the series on procrastination, and today I'll actually be giving you the first 3 steps to use when you're procrastinating. And I'm going to use a real life story of what was going on with me when I was writing the self-guided course that I wanted to put out for my students who wanted to do things on their own. So what happened is I realized that I had 3 buckets of notes that was kind of weighing me down. It's like, where do you begin when you have so many notes on different kind of techniques? And I realized that the first step is actually to just take one bucket, pull out maybe 6 or 7 pieces of information that I felt would be good in the first module on procrastination, and just look at that. As I pulled those pieces out, I made it even smaller. I went through those. They're more than pieces. They were different folders full of information. And I began to say, wait a minute, let's make this simple. Let's use just one piece that people can put to use right away. Once I got that, it was easy. So the first step was, I said, okay, what's one thing that a person can do when they're procrastinating? And the first step is always to stop, breathe, and focus in. The second step for me was to ask, what do I want to teach? What will be most helpful? And in that step, I realized that breaking the project down into the tiniest little pieces would be what was needed. So I actually started to break down my own project for the self-guided course into not only the different modules, but the different steps under each module. And the funny thing that came out of this is that I'm actually going to tell you what the first 7 steps were. So you can see, like, once I had these steps, it was like, I love writing up programs once I know what I want to teach. So the first step was to use the 60-second to calm breathing exercise. That could be found on my website at anxietycontrolcenter.com. And it's a freebie for anybody who would like to use it. So that's always the first step. And actually in that video, you'll also find the second step, which is to measure the stress level on a 0 to 10. 0 is like, I'm so calm, I can almost sleep. And 10 is, I'm having a panic attack. I'm crawling out of my skin. Having a gauge of where you are and being able to measure where you are gives us a technique so that any other tool we're using, we could measure and say, oh, that's working. I was at a 7 and now I'm at a 6. Okay, I guess that tool worked. When you don't measure something, you really don't know. If you're at a 7 and you do a breathing and you haven't measured it, you might think you're still totally anxious, but really you came down a bit. So the next step was, what are the thoughts that are getting in my own way? What are the thoughts that are creating the procrastination? And in general, I can tell you that most thoughts go to, what will others think? What if they don't like it? So it's almost like a fear of rejection, a fear of being judged, and a fear of not doing it good enough. And it doesn't matter how successful you are. Those 3 types of fears come up for anyone when taking on new projects. So the next tip, and this is the biggest tip for procrastination, is to break the goal down into tiny little chunks, so small that you can't help but do them. I'm working with a very accomplished financial advisor right now. And he said, Audrey, I'm procrastinating. And we were on Zoom, and he was showing me the files all over his office. And then I said, well, what would you like to work on? Again, we're breaking the procrastination down into doable pieces. And he said, actually, I just want to work on the mail and magazines that have piled up on my kitchen table. So basically, we broke the task down into 15-minute segments. He has 4 boxes. Each box has a different purpose. And in sorting his mail, he has the trash bag that if it's trash, goes right in there. If it's a magazine, it goes in the magazine box. If it's something that needs to be done immediately, he's either to take action on it at that moment or put it in the box and take another 15 minutes later that week to actually go through those. I need to do this immediately. And then we had another box, which he actually decided he was going to get a 12-month file system, where each month that he would say, like, I have something I want to do in the summer, but I don't need to take action on it now. So that would go into his May or June folder. And in this way, he has a system that will work even after all that mail and all that stuff on his table is done. He has a system so it will continue to work. Now, procrastination comes up in many areas. Major projects you have to do at work. When I work with screenwriters, they get writer's block. Sometimes they feel overwhelmed. Sometimes they feel that fear of what if it isn't good enough. There's different tools that we can use for that kind of procrastination. The 6th thing that I came up with was actually to use a standing meditation to release stress, because a stressed mind finds it much more difficult to function. So using the stress meditation to release stress, which is also on the Anxiety Control Center website. It's one of the things people can purchase. And then the next step is really to go deeper, to do a deeper dive into what are the emotions from the past, the beliefs, the limitations that have gotten somehow blocked or stuffed down into in the past that causes you to react the way you do. And for these, there's completely different tools. There's anchoring tools where you could touch 2 fingers together and totally get calm in a few seconds. There's a tool we call the puddle technique, where you literally can step into joy or step into confidence in 2 seconds. And the body follows through and the mind creates the feeling. It's quite amazing. There's some neuro-linguistic programming techniques that we can use. And they are absolutely amazing because we're actually reprogramming your neural net when we use these. So it's almost like we're reprogramming the pathway. So any pattern that gets in the way, I can pretty much assure you, has come from some old stuffed emotion or beliefs you formed about yourself or fears of rejection, and those need to be cleaned out at the very root. So those are the kind of things that you need somebody who is trained in hypnotic techniques, in neuro-linguistic techniques, to actually track you back and re-script or reprogram those old beliefs. But just to recap, breathing, rating your anxiety on a 0 to 10 so you know when a technique works, noticing the thoughts you're having and changing them, setting your goals so small, like what I was talking about, the 15 minutes a day, setting it so small that you can't help but succeed, which then creates motivation. Having hypnotic techniques and tools you can use in the moment of stress. And then we have the underlying deep dive into tools that can help you clear out the old limits and beliefs that are getting in your way. So I hope this audio will be of help, and I would love to hear back from you. You can write me at askdraudrey@gmail.com, askdraudrey@gmail.com, or check out the website anxietycontrolcenter.com.